Okay, rule 0 done. Everyone keeping their hands?
Yep, it do.
Yes, I do.
Uh-huh. It's pretty gas.
All right then. James, you're first up.
Untap, upkeep, draw. Okay, play island and say go. Draw. Play a forest, then tap that to play carpet of flowers.
Nice play. James always plays blue, so that was a good idea to include carpet of flowers in your deck, James.
No, I don't. I'm playing mono green.
No, not you, James. That James. Or just James in general.
Don't stereotype me. I'm playing a Boros deck.
I didn't mean you, James. I meant James.
Also, this deck only has 2 counterspells in it before you make me out to be that player.
Please none of you take offense. I was simply saying to James that casting something that I think was a good play, considering James was playing blue, is cool. Just puts me and James in a catch-up position.
Wait, which James is in the catch-up position?
I don't know anymore.
Do you want to go to the game store and play with real people?
I'm real. What are you talking about?
Batman came out of nowhere.
Batman always comes out of nowhere. That's his shtick.
It was a blend between Batman James or the Hormone Monster James.
Oh, it totally was.
Big
from Big Mouth. Yeah.
Really great series. Love that series.
Big fan for sure.
Oh,
well,
my Lord.
Welcome to the Get Commanded podcast by the Greensboro Commander community. It's the GCP by the GCC, helping you to have better games of Commander. I'm your host, Walt.
And hello, Commander players. I'm your other host, James. Definitely James. This one.
Oh, James. Yeah,
James.
yeah. Not to be confused with James.
Not the other James.
Or James.
Or Batman.
Or Batman. Or the Hormone Monster.
In fairness, no one's ever seen me and Batman in the same room.
Oh my god.
Yeah. You know who else we haven't seen in the same room as us?
The Space Commanders. Yeah. Segue. A nice very nice.
That was a bit of a stretch, that one, to be fair.
We'll take it. There is an incoming transmission from the deep depths of the galaxy from our friends, the Space Commanders. It's time to get commanded.
In constructed tournament formats, you eliminate your opponent and then move on to the next. Commander is different. You will return to the same opponents. Explore how your opponents make Commander unique. What makes repeated opponents a positive influence on the format? And how can you make this effect stronger? How can you improve as a Commander player by becoming aware of the phenomenon of the Playgroup?
Hey, you just referred to the Space Commanders as our friends. Do you reckon they think we're like part of their playgroup or something?
Oh, they'd never played with us.
I mean, they could have. They're also known to be chameleons.
And they might have been wiping our memory afterwards.
They could have also been wearing the skin suits of our friends.
Well, actually, I think, Space Commanders, we want to know what your experience playing with us is like.
Yeah, that'd be a good podcast episode.
Throw to you, Space Commanders. Playgroups, yeah.
What a cool... This is really unique to Commander, though, isn't it? They were totally right. It is super unique to Commander. I think that the thing that I'm thinking of when I think of a playgroup, just to define it real quick, is just the people that you keep coming back to play with regularly. Might be because of your geographical location, you just might be friends with them, but it's so unique to Commander because all, like the Space Commander says, all other tournament formats, you're not playing for fun, you're playing to win.
Yeah, that's totally true. And I think part of the reason that Commander is so popular, and we know now that Commander is the most popular format of Magic as of right now, is that it's so close to kitchen table Magic, which, as we know, is actually how the most Magic players play Magic, at a kitchen table with their friends, outside of a game store, outside of a tournament. So I think it just makes perfect sense that Commander, the format that we love so much, that's so popular, is so close to that experience of playing at a kitchen table.
Also, how players get started are usually because their friends are introducing them and they play for fun in the first instance. So, I think this concept sounds really simple. Like, you're playing with your friends.
Yeah.
But I'm actually struggling a little bit to go, okay, well, who's my playgroup?
Yeah, we're sort of at an interesting spot because I can definitely say that we once were part of a very specific playgroup because we got started, if you haven't heard the story before, me and James got started playing Commander during a COVID lockdown in Melbourne, Australia.
Which was very locked down.
Yes, very, very
in our own
strict.
house.
Yeah, so literally it was me, James, and two other people we were sharing a house with at the time.
We tried to get your partner in on it. That didn't land.
That did not work at all, which is fine. And like, so that was like really, those were the four people who played Commander. We played those same, 3 or 4 decks basically against each other every day almost for a good chunk of time.
It was genuinely every day. But yeah, now we're in this situation where we play at multiple different game stores across Victoria.
And most of our games are at game stores these days. We still play kitchen table, definitely. Like, we have Commander nights that we have at your place, at my place, whatever. But
I think that then defines our play group. It's the people that we play with at our houses and outside of the Commander events that our community run.
Sure.
But more to the people that, I'd say you're in my play group.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think you're in mine as well. Yeah, no, definitely. And so I think we sort of come at it from an interesting angle because we definitely have a play group and we play in one consistently, but we also spend a lot of time outside of play groups at the game store. But then even if you go to the same game store every week, that almost becomes
an extended play group.
It's like an extended play group.
Yeah.
You get used to the same decks, the same people in the same way you would if you were playing at a kitchen table. So
for sure.
It's just, I think you're right. When you defined it, you sort of said it's the people that you play with consistently, that you see consistently, that Magic is to you. That's sort of your play group, I think.
And I think, okay, so now we know what a playgroup is. I think right at the top of our discussion here is what makes a good playgroup. And I think straight out of the gate, the easy way to define a good playgroup is a playgroup that you feel comfortable, happy, and motivated to play with. Like you want to play with them.
Totally. I mean, I think it's sort of like how would you define a friend, really? Is like almost the same thing.
Exact same definition.
Pretty much the same thing. I guess, you do play with people who you wouldn't necessarily would be your closest friends. They might be in your playgroup, but like it's the same sort of thing, right? It's like, do you enjoy the time that you spend in company with that person? And that's mostly going to define what it's like to play with that person in a game anyway, right? As in a playgroup. For
sure. And I think being comfortable with the people is like a big thing, especially, even with our community, we've got a really diverse playgroup, people of different gender identities than normal, people with different backgrounds and heritage. And it's really important that you feel comfortable in that. But also, like, I said the word motivated before, and I'm kind of pondering on that word. After a week at work, I'm kind of fanging for a bit of Commander with my playgroup. And I am desperate to play with my playgroup. If I go to the play store, the game store.
Sometimes when he's being supervised in kindergarten.
There's a ball pit. When I go to the game store, you're just imagining me in a ball pit now, aren't you?
I'm just imagining your playgroup, like me and Nick and a bunch of other people just being like, James, take that out of your mouth.
With building blocks on it. Oh, Lordy. Well, look, next time I'm at the table, I'll bring Lego. But
sounds good.
When I get to the end of a work week, I'm desperate to play with my playgroup. And sometimes when I go to the game store, I nearly said it again. When I go to the game store, sometimes all the members of my playgroup will be in other pods. Yeah. And I'll sit down with people outside my usual playgroup, and it throws me a little bit. It's a very different environment. So
I think it's definitely an environment that takes a little bit more energy as well. And so that's probably why we form playgroups, is because we sort of enjoy the fact that we can kind of switch off chunks of our brain and just focus on the game at hand and focus on hanging out with people when we don't have to worry about introductions. And,
introductions, there's so many benefits to a regular playgroup, right?
Yeah.
And a good playgroup is going to have really, really efficient Rule Zero conversations.
Exactly, yeah. So introducing the decks. I mean, when you play with the same people in a playgroup, you can almost sometimes forego the Rule Zero conversation. If I pull out my Azor the Lawbringer deck,
I know,
you don't really need the rundown. Assuming it's me and you and other people who know that deck, you probably don't even necessarily need the Rule Zero conversation. I think a lot of regular playgroups are sort of like this, where it's like, oh, you're pulling out your Merrin deck, I know for sure that I need to pull out this deck to sort of match with that. And that's kind of the extent of the Rule Zero conversation. Is like, I know what power level we're at because I know what that deck looks like.
I actually had a bit of an experience of this like a couple of days ago in the game store. One of our friends in our playgroup, Daniel, pulled out a deck and I immediately went, oh, we're playing that kind of a game.
There you go,
which is like, he pulled out one of his, it's a fling tribal deck. You've played against
this one,
yeah?
Brian Stoutarm one, right? Yeah.
Super cool. But really wacky. And it's one of those decks that Daniel has built to kind of express himself through a deck. So I'm like, okay, we're playing that kind of a game. Yep. I'll put away my Scarab God deck, which is a little bit high-powered, to play a little bit more fun-loving Commander style.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even a conversation. I actually recognized the deck box that he was pulling out. Didn't even have the chat.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think it's still important, though, even when we do play in a playgroup, that I think a good playgroup will still have robust Rule Zero conversations. Like, in the instance where you're not familiar with the deck, and certainly in the instance where there's new people in the playgroup, I think a good playgroup will still have that pretty robust Rule Zero conversation of, the questions that we really like to answer, like, how does your deck win? How consistently does it do it? What does your deck do to stop your opponents from winning? That sort of rundown is going to be... probably like it can be shortened a lot for a really good playgroup, but it's still there and it's still something that is actively being worked on by everyone. I mean,
look, we're both huge advocates of Rule Zero anyway.
We are.
But we're trying not to hark on about it too much again. But yeah, I think that when you introduce a new deck, for example, one that your playgroup has never seen, the Rule Zero conversation is going to be a little bit easier to have even on a brand new deck because the playgroup knows your language and your the things that you're using. Like you can say, okay, this is another one of my tokens decks, but this time I'm not running Hoof.
That's sort of enough for me to know, what kind of deck am I going to expect to play against.
And
totally.
Especially when if a player brings something new to the table that might be a bit controversial, like, I don't know, land destruction or stacks or something like that.
Yeah.
I think the Rule Zero conversations are a little bit more open to the possibility of actually playing through a game.
Yeah, I think this actually reflects a bit of language that the rules committee use when they talk about how they sort of guide the game of Commando. Because it is, voluntary sort of basis, the rules committee.
Yeah.
So they've got to have robust ways of defining things to get their heads around it. And one way they separate games of Commander is they separate them into trusted games and untrusted games. So the trusted games banner is going to be pretty much any game that happens in a playgroup. So like...
you trust the people.
Yeah, it's basically like to contrast with untrusted games, which is like when you join someone's Discord and play a webcam game, or when you go to a game store you've never been to before, or just like go to a game store and play with people you've never played with before. That's what they would call an untrusted game. And it's sort of to reflect the fact that, as we know, a lot of the rules documents that come from the Rules Committee for Commander are really, really like emphasize this idea that in a playgroup with consistent players, the rules can be bent, they can be broken, they understand that people who know one another can find their own way of playing the game, but the untrusted games is kind of a whole different ballpark, and that's sort of where they base a lot of their bans around, is like, okay, if I'm walking into a game store, what kind of experience do we want to avoid for a new player? And that's what they're going to be basing a lot of that stuff around.
I mean, Sheldon, the grandfather of Magic himself, has said it multiple times that, we trust playgroups. Like he's even used the words that the Space Commanders have used, saying we trust you, the playgroups, not the players, but the playgroups, to talk about how you play with yourselves.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you. I think, land destruction stacks, those sorts of things that we, as experienced Commander players, we know are a bit of a faux pas. The rules committee is quite clear on saying, actually, we know that in playgroups, in trusted games, we know you'll find your way of making that work for you. And, the cards are legal for a reason.
Yeah.
That's the place to play
them.
Well,
I'll give you an example. Fall of Thran is an enchantment saga that destroys all lands.
Yeah.
But at the end, it returns a bunch of lands to your battlefield and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One of our players, Daniel, in our playgroup, has played that card, but he says, I'm never going to cast this card unless I can guarantee the win. which is actually a really nice way of like regulating that, taboo, which is land destruction, but saying, I actually kind of want to experiment with this side of Magic and see if I can win through this card on the turn.
And I think he's an example of that really robust Rule Zero conversation because he knows the way to explain it to us that will get us on side to understanding and being okay with it, which is him saying, I'm going to win on that turn. So like, for sure, it's not going to be a thing of you sitting around while I play land, you play land, we all try to rebuild our boards. He's going to be like, no. I cast this spell, I win.
Yeah. And that way you don't have to be scared of it coming. Like, if you see the spell, like, if you can't deal with it, like, I'm going to win.
Yeah.
All right, so, like, okay, well, Rule Zero, talking about bans, talking about different cards and stuff, that's, like, the function of Commander and getting it started. But, like, in-game, a playgroup has a very different vibe and a very different, like, atmosphere than playing with random people. I think the politics aspect of Commander is the biggest example that I can think of this.
I think playgroups really amplify politics a lot. I think it comes from a couple of things. I think it comes from everyone knowing each other's tricks and knowing each other's decks, where it becomes this thing of like, oh, James is bargaining here because someone's trying to blow up this enchantment. I might butt in and say, actually, the reason he's bargaining right now is that enchantment is crucial. He needs that right now. So by all means, blow it up because that's why he's bargaining with you.
Yeah, I think we've actually said this on this podcast before, but like, if you've never played with me and you hear me start to make deals and bargain and politic, it probably means I'm about to lose. And I'm trying to get every single scrap of resource that I can gather, and that's usually you, that I can try and get out of whatever conversation I'm having to make sure I don't lose. So, like, my normal playgroup, like, you know that trick.
Yeah.
You know my, like, oh, no, don't do this, and I won't swing at you for 5 turns. But you're like, you don't need to swing. You'll win like this.
Yeah.
Like, you'll win with an infinite flicker combo or something like that. You don't need to swing.
It's true that all the politics gets kind of ramped up. I think it's also that the other reason I think we see a lot more in playgroups is that when everyone knows one another, like, so much of politics is banter.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's back and forth, right? And so some people, especially, a lot of people we play Magic with, myself included, have some amount of social anxiety. And so with new players, it can feel like a little bit like, oh, I don't want to be bombastic. I don't want to make someone feel kind of threatened by my, big political outburst or whatever. But in a playgroup, if you're at the table, if Nick's at the table, if James at the table, I'm kind of going to be like, hey, wait.
I've also pulled this, I've driven my partner to the store, and my partner and I live together. If we've driven in the same car as my car, they can't drive manual, so I usually pull so who's driving you home? I usually pull that card to be like, don't swing at me, who's driving you home?
I don't think this is an example of good politics or good playgroup behavior.
No, it really isn't. I also think like bad politics in like usual, like irregular playgroups, if you're like actually bargaining, being like, I'll buy you lunch. I think take that out of politics for your playgroup.
Maybe don't
But like
do that.
Things like that like jest of like, oh yeah, ribbing each other kind of, that is really expressive.
Yeah.
And you touched on something that I kind of want to dig into a little bit before we move on. Do you think that makes Commander a little bit or that gives a barrier to entry to Commander for new players? Because when they see a playgroup, it is quite expressive and, as you put it, bombastic in its like, display. People are throwing their hands up. Maybe someone slams the table or something like that. Like, how dare you? All these little inside jokes. Do you think that might cause a little bit of...
I think it can be. I think it really depends on the circumstance in which someone's being introduced to Commander. I think definitely in a circumstance where someone's walking into a store, they've never played Commander before, they've never played Magic before, some of that can feel a bit threatening. But I will say that, politics and sort of that part of that social part of the game, because, Commander is a social format. When that's done right, I actually think, in the instance where, let's say I'm bringing someone new to the store and you're at the table with us, if we start doing our political banter, it actually kind of opens the door to them saying like, hey, this is not a game where we sit there and take our turns and move on. This is a game where we chat and joke and
have fun
and, you know, bargain with one another.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the fun of Commander.
Yeah.
So I think if it's done right and if it's not threatening and it's sort of done in a way where it invites people in, I think that's actually part of what makes the game so good. And I think that will attract new players, actually.
And I really hope that we pull that, because I actually have a really fun memory. We played at a game store in the city, a new game store in Melbourne. Plenty of games.
Yeah.
Fantastic crew of Plenty of Games. Big shout out to those guys. But we were playing, and that's not our usual game store.
No.
So we were playing with a bunch of new players, and when we played together, like, I was able to do things like, oh, that card might look silly and dumb on Walt's board. Like for Glunch. I think Glunch was the actual card.
Glunch the Bestower.
It's a wacky card. You look at it and go, this is a group hug card. But in Walt's Golems deck, so basically this card is so weird. I'm going to try and explain this.
Sure.
Glunch gives it gives a player 2 treasures.
Mm-hmm.
It allows another player to draw a card.
Yep.
And it gives another player +1 counters on a creature.
2 +1 counters.
2 +1 counters on a creature. So, but you have to target different people.
Yes.
So the way Walt usually plays it is puts 2 +1 counters on someone else's creature to help them buff it up, gives 2 treasures to someone else, and draws a card. Now, Walt plays this in his Ish to Keep deck, which whenever an artifact enters a graveyard from anywhere, including a token treasure artifact, he puts a +1 counter on all of his golems.
And Ish to Keep.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the secret tech in the deck, and I think I had it on the board, and James was like, I know this is a silly jellyfish,
but if you sack those 2 treasures, you've doubled like the power on Walt's board.
Yeah, it's actually kind of insane, and I'm sad that it's not a trick I can pull on people anymore.
Not if I'm at the table.
Well, also this is a public podcast, James, so that's it. The game is up. I'm taking Glunch out of my deck.
No, I'm not taking Glunch out. It's such a funny card.
I would never. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think like what I was saying before about the way that I advise people to not always bargain with you is the same kind of vein, right? It's like I recognize your way of playing, and so I
can't get away with those tricks.
Yeah, but it's kind of in a fun way. I think it should be. It shouldn't be like a let's pick on this person. It should be an invitation to socialize.
But like sometimes even when it does become let's pick on this person, it's a little bit of an inside joke and a bit of fun.
It can be for sure. Definitely.
I think that like what we're like driving towards here is like playgroups make really, really memorable moments in Commander.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Glunch one is one already.
Yeah, so absolutely. Like, I think when you're playing with a really solid group of friends or, that you really got into a good playgroup, things like pet cards can become, like, infamous. Like, even really dumb ones. Like, I've got Werebear in one of my decks now that you used to play in Marin.
I have a copy. I don't know which set Werebear was printed in. I think it's like Invasion or like one of those sets from way back, which is when I actually started playing Magic. Yeah. So I've got a lot of nostalgia for these cards that I played with when I was literally like 7 or 8 years old. In the playground, unsleeved, no idea how any of the games worked. And Werebear was like a absolute favorite of mine. And
it's just, for anyone that doesn't know, it's a 1 and a green for a 2/2 bear that taps for a green, but it has Threshold. So if you meet Threshold, which is 7 or more cards in your graveyard, it gets +3/+3.
It's spoopy. The absolute best part of Werebear has to be the flavor text.
Oh, he exercises his right to bear arms.
Yes. Horrific. But I think what you're referring to here is the fact that when you recently built your bear tribal deck with Ayula as the commander, you specifically purchased the art from Invasion or whichever set it was back there so that it would be, for me, I would look at it and go, hey, it's my boy.
And I'm pretty sure I've had Ayula's trigger fight Werebear and kill a couple of your things just for play.
Beautiful. You can't feel bad about that. Well, likewise, for one of your birthdays or Christmas or something a couple of years ago, I bought you like 1 card for every commander deck at the time.
Which I don't have as many. I didn't have as many as I do now.
No, I was just going to say, otherwise it would bankrupt me.
Yeah, I think I had like 4 or 5 decks.
I think it was like 5 cards or 6 cards or something. And for your Scarab God deck, which you just built, I bought you Army of the Damned.
Yeah,
the weird card that makes 13 tapped zombies or something.
It's like and then it's got flashback as well.
Yeah, it's like a 9-mana spell.
Yeah.
And I think I saw you actually get a win with that. In fact, I think you were not even at the same table as me at the store, and you got a win with it, and you specifically came up to me and you were like, Walt,
it finally
I did
happened.
it. I got Army of the Damned up because that's like we have these stories we associate with particular cards.
For sure. I actually remember that win with Army of the Damned. I won on the turn I cast it because I had that incredible Sphinx of the Second Sundown.
Yeah.
And I just drained everyone at the end step.
Move to the end step, which moves to your beginning phase. Yeah.
So cool. But I actually have another really sweet story that I'm not sure if you know about, actually. Do you remember your diplomatic immunity that you had in Azor ages and ages ago?
Way back in the day, it's a 1 and a blue for an aura.
Yeah.
At the time, I think it just said enchant creature or something. Weird names. It's diplomatic immunity has Shroud, and the enchanted creature has Shroud.
So it's like really hard to touch anything.
You can't do anything to it.
Just don't even, unless it's a board-wide effect, you're not touching it.
Yeah.
I ended up trading you for that because I was like, I really love this card. When you took it out your deck, I was like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I've recently given it to Theo, my partner, and they've put it in their Runo deck, which is a bit of a pet deck of theirs, and I cannot wait until the moment Spawning Kraken has diplomatic immunity.
Just to like really tie everyone's pet cards together.
Yeah, I think that'd be a beautiful little... That card has gone through 3 people and ended up on Spawning Kraken, which is my partner's pet card.
It's beautiful. We have such strong stories we associate with cards. We've actually recently been reveling in the fact that we've managed to lure one of the other people who used to play with us during lockdown, our good friend Abe, is coming into our store again. And seeing some of the cards in his decks, because they've remained like reasonably unchanged because he hasn't really touched the game for a couple of years, seeing cards like Treacherous Terrain in his Gruul Stompy list is so like, oh my god, what a throwback. Like I remember him winning games, like fucking 15-turn games. I remember him winning with this card.
Just because he had 30 lands on the battlefield.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Treacherous Terrain is definitely one of those cards that recently we've played against Abe. And it's almost, when you like smell... like someone's house and you get transported back in time. Like when you go to an old high school friend's house and when you walk into their house for like the first time in a good 5 years, you're like, oh, I'm in high school again.
I used to call that HO. House order. House
Take 2, go on.
House odor, like body odor is BO. I used to call it HO because our good friends, our good friends around the corner used to have a house where you'd walk in and you had that instant like, oh my god, I'm at their house. Like I know I'm there because I can smell it.
Well, like, I actually, I travel to England all the time to see my family and stuff. I haven't been back there in a long time, but I once left one of my favourite hoodies at one of my friends' places in England. Yeah. And they washed it and mailed it back to me. When I opened the parcel, when it came to Australia, I could smell their house. And it, like, for that split second, transported me back to their living room. Yeah. And I think Magic cards, and specifically, like, pet cards, with our playgroups, do that.
They do. I think they kind of teleport us back in time to the last time we saw them.
It's really sweet. It's something really that you can't get with, like... because, like, other formats, like Modern, Pioneer, Pauper even, there are meta cards that you kind of have to use.
Yeah, and you see them all the time. And you see Bolt every day. Yeah. So you don't really have that, like, strong, specific, singular memory with Bolt, unless you, won a GP with it or something, maybe, but like other formats, you're never going to get that house odor effect. No,
it's lovely. Happen, so special as a commander.
Yeah. I think the other thing we get in playgroups when we play with the same people again and again is we sort of get like, there's kind of like stereotypes.
Oh, for sure.
So it's like similar to the Timmy kind of thing, like Timmy,
Spike and
Johnny. Thank you. Didn't get any of them right. We sort of have like commander specific ones. I feel there's like the guy that politics too hard.
Oh, that's me. That's definitely me.
That's definitely you. There's like the person who goes in the tank for like 30 years.
There's a few of those in our playgroup.
There's a few in our store.
You do it a bit.
I do it a bit, but usually there's like my last turn is that turn. But like there's people who do it almost every turn.
I'm happy to shout out people on this podcast. Jordan is a key culprit in our playgroup. I love Jordan a bit. Builds incredible decks. But oh boy, does that boy think for a long time.
There's a TikTok on our account that is literally it's that TikTok sound of
our conversations so long, but you know what is.
And then it's you drinking and it's Jordan's turns on the screen.
I totally forgot I made that one. Check that out at G_Commander Community.
Shout out plug.
Mid episode plug. Look at that.
Too strong. What other stereotypes do we get?
I know so one of our other good friends, Daniel, is a very experienced Magic player. He's been playing Magic for years and years and years.
And even Commander for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, probably the most experienced player in our playgroup.
Yeah, probably. Has a consistent playgroup, yeah. I think
hands down the most amount of time behind the decks.
Yeah.
The threat assessor is what I'm calling him.
Oh.
He is like so stereotypical in like analyze every board. I've never been in a game where he's not pointed out what the threat is.
Yeah, I think what the thing that separates him is like we all do threat assessment as like part of playing Commander. It's the one who says like, oh, by the way, this is the problem card right now. Yeah, and that's Daniel.
But also like it's not even this is the problem card. It's this is the problem card because of these theoretical reasons I have analyzed. Check out my chalkboard. I have a reason for this.
He tutored with Mystical Tutor a moment ago, and I know for a fact he got this standard playable card.
He's got like a notepad next to him. It's like, not to that extent, but he's really good at it.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think he's not afraid to tell people, hey, I reckon this is the problem right now.
And I know this because I've seen it before, all that kind of stuff.
And I think the thing that you will get, the other stereotype you will get when someone does the threat assessment thing and says you need to remove that, is that player will say, do it, I dare you.
That's me too. I do that as well. Sometimes even if I have nothing in hand, like I'm bluffing hardcore, but do it, I dare you.
Sometimes you throw a few expletives in there, like do it, word, or like, you won't do it, word.
Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad.
Yes. Any of those choice words, yeah.
I think Nick, who we've also mentioned on this podcast, loves like... I have an instant speed response for this and only will say, do it, I dare. Like, I bluff. Nick doesn't. If Nick says, do it, I dare you, I'm not doing it.
Don't touch it.
I'm not doing it.
If that spell is not on the stack yet, don't do it. Untap those lands. Spend them somewhere else.
Yeah, put it in a Helix Pinnacle. Just wait a couple of turns.
Anywhere else.
I tell you what, while we're on the topic of the like player types and like the stereotypes, I read a really interesting blog post from the head writer at Card Kingdom.
Oh.
Her name's Kristen Gregory.
Yeah.
I've read a couple of her articles actually. The Card Kingdom blog is incredible. Kristen's the head writer there.
I don't think I've ever read any of these.
Really interesting to read around set releases because they do different blogs about like how to draft it, what are the best cards for Commander.
I think I've read the how to draft ones.
Yeah.
I think I've seen these ones where they're like, these are the archetypes, this is what cards you should look for.
Yeah,
so those are really good actually.
They're really well written. Huge shout out to Kristen for organising that content. But one article that was like kind of like a throw in between product releases, which to be honest, I don't know where you find the time to get an article in between product releases that last
these
year.
Days, yeah.
But she wrote an article with 4 new player types, like Johnny, Timmy, and Spike, but 4 Commander.
Oh!
Yeah, it was a really interesting article, and honestly, her justifications were sound. And
I want to hear all of these.
Okay, I'll run you through them, because like each one I was like, I can think of Walt is this and I'm probably this, but okay, so the first one up is the Artisans.
Yeah.
In the article she said, these are the players that make up the largest portion of Commander player base, and they enjoy getting the best out of their decks and will generally keep their deck if it just brings them joy. They just love... It's like painting to them. They're just like, I really like this piece of art that I've made. I'm going to hang it on the wall. I'm going to keep this around.
All right. I see like this is definitely the bulk of people. Like most people, this is the way they play Commander.
And I think everyone's a little bit of an artisan and then maybe a little bit of one of the other 3.
Yeah.
So like everyone loves what they build. But these people really love like, I just love Commander and this is a part of the artwork that I've added to it.
And I love this deck specifically. Yeah. This is my deck. This is the one that brings me joy. Yeah. I like being happy. This is almost like the Timmy, probably. Like
this one's got a big dinosaur on it. I like it. Yeah. The other one that I thought was pretty close to most of our play group, but I think is specifically some people, is the Revelers, as she put it.
Ooh.
So this is players who sit down at a Commander game primarily to have fun. And I know that's why we all play Commander, but she says the last thing on the Revelers' mind is winning.
Right.
The last thing they want to do is win, but if they do win, it has to be in the most spectacular and perfect way for them to win.
Okay, I think I take it back. I think this is the most Timmy of the ones. This is the like big splashy plays.
I want to win with a board full of dinosaurs.
Gotcha.
Raw.
This is the stylish sleek. Yeah, I want to do something.
The revelers make sense, though,
reveling
right?
in the game.
Yeah.
And, if anything, these people don't want to win because they want it to go longer. They want like a grindier game where more things get cast and more big things happen.
I don't care about winning. Let's board wipe for a 5th time. Let's do more fun shit.
I was thinking the revelers might be the ones who don't like board wipes because they're like, no, all my cool stuff.
No, I think they're like, all my cool stuff. Let me build another cool thing and build it all up again.
Revel in everything.
Celebration all the time.
I love it.
The next one is pretty close to Spike. And this is the one when I read the article, I went, ooh, is this Walt?
Okay.
But it might be Walt when you play Pauper. And considering we just got back from a Pauper event.
We did.
I might be linking this too much to you. But what Kristen called it was an athlete. A commander player, the athlete commander player. So this is players who get their kicks from just being good at commander, knowing the format, how good their deck has been built, knowing every single aspect of their deck, really stretching their legs, almost like, an athlete going to a running track being like, I have got these shoes that I've purchased specifically for the 500 meters. I know how many steps I'm taking and look at how good my breathing pattern is.
Right. I definitely have some amount of this. I think this is like the, I found this weird interaction. This is the part of me where I think I've said before, if someone says, I've never seen that card before, but that's awesome, that's like my kick,
Yeah, for sure.
That's definitely part of me.
I think the next topic is a little bit more that, because she's got one final category, and I think that's more that. Whereas the athlete is more about I'm training to do the thing and win, almost a little bit more spiky.
Okay, I think the athlete is me when I'm deck building, probably, which is
spreadsheets
find the absolute
open.
Most meticulous mana curve and best
all your tags on Moxfield.
This card's not working for me. I'll find a cheaper version of the same effect. Scryfall, mana value 1. Yeah.
There you go. That's the athlete in you.
Okay.
But the one that gets the kicks out of having those weird little interactions is our last category. Yeah. It's called the Explorer.
Oh.
This is the category that are always looking for the next fix in Commander. Usually the type of player that trawls through Scryfall and looks for those niche, underplayed synergies. Maybe it's like a tribe that no one's ever built a deck around, or specifically going through their own collection and looking at a really old 7th edition white bordered piece of crap card and going, I can build a Commander deck around you.
Jeez, called out.
That's you.
that might be the most me, actually. Yeah. I love a good Scryfall search. Oh boy, I love it so much.
But how cool is I'll put the link to this article in the show notes because I've kind of top lined these, but she goes into a lot of detail. She wrote it around Strixhaven release. Okay. So she kind of put the Strixhaven Commander cards under the categories of which player would play these.
Yeah.
Really cool article.
Give it a read. I like having more ways to describe how we like to play. That's always fun.
And more ways to describe us and how we play.
And the people we play with. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, James, I've been having a lot of fun. But I reckon it might be time for a thrifty interlude.
I am not going to lie. It's getting a bit hot in this recording room. I'd love to take a little bit of a break, hear about some budget broken card.
Cool off a little bit. Yeah. Something mellow. Something chill.
Wait, I'm literally just reading the card you've chosen.
It's mellow.
This is not a mellow card, Walt. This is not a mellow card.
Cooling off.
Oh my God, what is this card you've chosen?
All right, we're going to feature it.
I'm just reading it. Can I read it out?
You read it out, and then I'll do my monologue. Then we can talk about it.
Okay, this is not a chill thrifty interlude, people, because the card for our thrifty interlude today is Mark of Fury. It's an enchantment aura for 1 red mana. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature has haste. At the beginning of the end step, return Mark of Fury to its owner's hand.
Today I am mad! I know not what brought upon this rage, I know only that I must find the true object of my fury. Until I find that object, my whole being shall be as a raging tempest. All within the world shall fear me, for my rage knows no bounds. Am I scorned? Dost thy mother lie within the bed of my father? Dost my love speak of my impotence? I know not, indeed I know naught but rage. But I forget myself. My rage fades in the ebbs and flows of my breath. I slip into a deep sleep. I awaken. Today I am mad! Get budgeted! 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 Budgeted!
See, that was not a relaxing thrifty interlude at all. You lied. You
I did
straight up lied.
I'm a big liar.
That is a repeatable 1 mana haste effect.
Yeah.
That's less than, what, like $2?
It's
less than $1.
It's like less than $1. It's
That's
gotta be
wacky.
Someone alerted me when I posted this like as the blog post form to the best deck for it. I'm struggling to remember the commander's name, but the Gruul commander from, I think, AFR that cares about modified creatures.
Whoa, that's sick.
Well, and also because you bounce it in your end step, I think there's a trigger when an aura ETB is attached to a creature. I think the commander has a trigger that does that.
Puts counters on something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Whenever,
that's so good.
So it's every turn. Cast that.
Love that.
So sick.
Someone's got to wheel you to get it out of your hand.
Yeah, exactly right.
That's so cool.
Well, if you want to see these text posts, as I mentioned before, the blog style posts, as they are released, I am posting them every Thursday in our Discord, which is linked in the show notes. And you can also see some of these brought to life as videos at our TikTok, which we mentioned earlier, G_Commander Community. I just did one, and probably by the time this comes out, it'll be a little bit old, but I just did one for... Planar Guide.
I loved it.
Planar Guide Tours, specifically. The insurance policy of Planar Guide Tours.
Can I ask, is that a branded Planar Guide's raincoat that you had, or is that just one?
To be honest, I was like, he's gold in the art. I need to find something like bright and...
Oh, I was imagining like you on one of those river guided tours where you were wearing like a splash jacket.
It's double duty.
Yeah, it worked brilliantly.
It did it all. But let's get back to the Playgroup.
Yeah.
What we were talking about. So... Yeah, what's next on the...
Okay.
So we sort of looked at, like, what the different parts of the Playgroup, like what a Playgroup is. What's next? Like, what are we doing with Playgroups?
Well, the Space Commander specifically asked us to think about the Playgroups and how we can kind of be better Commander players because we're aware of the Playgroup.
Gotcha. So now we're sort of thinking, like, what's my little advantage that I'm gaining? I think they used the word advantage, I think, maybe. Or,
I'm not too sure.
And they used a word like advantage.
It's really hot in this room. But, like, I think that, like, we just spoke about how there are, like, player stereotypes, right?
Yeah.
I think the stereotypes are something that you can really play to your advantage.
Right. What's, like, off the top of your head, what's the first thing?
Easy one. I'm going to use myself as an example here.
Okay.
I'm a player that loves to politic.
Shocker to anyone who's played with you.
It's like we've mentioned it. It's like we've not mentioned it 20 times in this episode already. But like, yeah, if I'm starting to politic, if you know that I'm the politic player, that I usually win because of my politic deals, don't politic with me.
No.
Like, if you play with me regularly, make it harder for me to get my good value out of you.
I think the way that I tend to do this with my deals with you, and I think this is something I heard from Command Zone somewhat recently. They did like a politics episode, which was really good. I highly recommend going and checking that out. They recommended when someone makes a deal with you, I mean, for one, you can always refuse a deal. That's like a good thing.
Yeah.
But also, you can always bargain. Like, whatever someone is offering you is obviously going to be the best case scenario for you. So, like, you know, if you say to me, like, oh, don't remove that thing, and you can have, I won't attack you for 2 turns. Think about the fact that, like, the very act of trying to make a deal is saying that they really need that thing gone, and just ask for more. Just be like, 4 turns. Straight off the bat, just say 4 turns and bargain, and you'll probably arrive somewhere better for you than whatever that initial plan was.
Yeah, or... You know, even if it's like, I know we use this I won't attack you thing for a long time because you have your little red D6 that you put at the front of your playmat.
I do.
That you count the turns on. But like, I've done things like, you know, okay, don't board wipe or don't kill any of my creatures by any of your effects with this amount of time. Because I do math in my head where I'm like, right, if I have this board state until another 2 turns, I should be able to win because by that point I'll have this many things in my graveyard or like I'll be able to do something like...
But you can apply the same logic to your side of the deal, I think, is the thing here. Is like, you know, everyone's got their skin in the game, right? They know what their ideal scenario looks like, but you have yours too. So, like, emphasize that. Put it in the conversation.
And use the fact that you know these regular players, your regular opponents in your playgroup, like, you know, use that to your advantage. Like, if you are going up against the Stompy deck, they're going to want to keep their creatures. So maybe something to sweeten the deal is I won't kill your creatures, but don't swing them at me.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
That's a good one, because you know that they're going to have big stompy creatures because they're playing their big stompy creature deck.
Yeah.
And you can be like, I've got a board wipe in hand. As long as the creatures go elsewhere, you're fine. You can keep them.
Yeah, good one. And speaking of combat, actually, one that I can think of is there will be certain players who love a combat trick. They love their, what's the 2-mana double strike trample card? Their Team of Battle Rage. They love their Team of Battle Rage. They love that kind of stuff. So if that player in your playgroup, the stompy guy, the combat trick person is going to combat, they're swinging at you, check what mana they have open and check how much and check colors. If it's, like 8 red or something, that's going to be something nuts they're about to do. Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting one because it goes both ways as well. Like, if you're attacking into them, just check before you turn your card sideways because they might be defending themselves if in combat. If that's something that they always do, then just be aware. And you can kind of almost maybe talk about some specific cards in a minute, but you can almost identify based on how much mana they're holding up, what spell might be in their hand.
Yeah, that's the next level thing. I will say for newest players, it's totally fine for you to do that. I think if you're pretty new, just check to see if they have open mana. Because half the time we go to combat, we've got no mana at all. Then you can just, block accordingly, do your stuff, whatever. If someone's got a lot of mana open, just immediately think to yourself, okay, alarm bell's ringing here. Something bad could happen. I could die.
This is why cards like Deadly Relic suck.
That card,
It's strong, right? Because you don't have to hold up any mana. It's crazy.
Can I tell you about the funniest combat trick I've ever done?
I love combat tricks, so go for it.
There's a little known combat trick, James. It's probably not a card you've seen used as a combat trick. I once killed a player with Beacon of Immortality.
No. Oh, no way! Did you sacrifice it in the Golem deck?
I did not sacrifice it in the Golem deck. That's a good one.
I thought that would have been good.
So, Beacon of Immortality doubles your life total for 5 and a white. It's an instant speed, double your life total.
Oh, I'm seeing where this is going.
And then you shuffle into your library. I was playing my Azor the Lordbringer deck, and I had the aura... forget what it's called. It's a 3-mana aura that whenever you gain life, you put that many +1 counters on the creature. Yeah. I attacked someone with a flyer. That she could have blocked with, actually.
Really?
It was... I won't call her out. She could have blocked. She chose not to. And I, before damage, cast Beacon of Immortality, doubled my life total, put like 25 +1 counters on that creature, and she died.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
She was like so taken aback that she was just like not at all mad. She was like, yeah, sure, I'm dead.
That's such a sick combat trick. Oh, I love that. I thought you were going to sacrifice it in your Golems deck to like pump all your Golems at instant speed.
Oh.
That could be another way you could win with Beacon. Oh no, so Beacon of Immortality is the spell. I'm thinking of the Elixir of Immortality.
Yes, the artifact one. No, yeah.
That could also be a pretty cool.
That would in the Golem deck, actually. Yeah, I like that.
That'd be pretty sick.
I like that a lot.
Well, okay, we talked about one of the stereotypes being the threat assessor.
Yes.
But I think in certain games, it's really handy to know in your group who you trust.
Yeah.
And who you trust in that moment to help you assess the board and actually identify who the threat is.
Yeah.
I think, because obviously, like, this is a social game. We talk during the game, we talk and, we're sharing, that army of the damned is going to be terrifying. That, a second upkeep James has got in his Scarab God deck is just going to get out of hand.
Yeah.
When conversations like this are going on, of course players are going to be like, don't worry about it, it's not that bad. Those words and phrases get thrown around a lot. So I generally default to like people like Daniel, who we just called out. Like, I think you're going to assess the board really well here. What do you think is actually the threat right now?
There are actually some players who I won't say this is an expectation that I have of people, because I totally understand we're all trying to win, but there are some people who I legitimately trust to adequately tell me the threat even when they're in the lead. I think it's really rare for people to do that, but I know some people who, if I say like, oh, what's the biggest threat here? Someone might say, look, honestly, it's probably this enchantment on my board. Yeah. Like, they'll be really upfront about it. Daniel is maybe one of those people who I think I would trust to do that.
I think so too, and that's why I usually default to him in our playgroup.
Yeah.
I try and do it a lot with new players. I really do. And
I like to think I'm reasonably good at it as well. Yeah.
And I think, as a general Get Commanded podcast message to you all, if you are playing with new players and people are asking you about threat assessment, this is a time to be honest and use it as a teaching moment to make people have better Commander games.
Totally. That's the way to lead to better games, for sure. I think the other one I can think of, in terms of knowing your playgroup really well, control players, especially ones who we know are likely to have counter spells up. Yeah. I've said this before about specifically the way me and you play when I know you have a counter spell. I always play, well, one of two ways. Either I cast the spell that is worse for me first, like less, I don't care about it so much.
Isn't going to win you the game, for example.
Cast that first, see if I can get the counter spell, bait the counter spell is the term we use. Yep. Get the counter spell out of your hand that way. The other thing I will sometimes do is I will cast a spell that still doesn't mean a lot to me, but I know is threatening to you first.
To make me
you go like, oh, I can't let that resolve. Counter spell. And then I'm like, okay, second spell. This
overwhelming stampede, you die.
Yeah. And you're like, you know.
And honestly, it's got to a point, specifically with this whole baiting counter spell thing. I've now gone up against multiple people in our playgroup that always do the, go on, James, counter it. You know you want to. Where I'm like, oh, are you now trying to double bluff me? Are you trying to make me think that you want me to counter it when I know I should counter it, but you don't want me to counter? But if I do, then you can cast the... Damn it.
You know what's wild? I went a step further and thought that you were going to say that you love when people do that because it means they assume you have a counter spell and you can act as though you have one even when you don't.
Which, to be honest, sometimes I do play into that bit a little bit.
Yeah, you leave mana open. I've seen you just leave mana open for no reason and just put it there. The 2 blue.
Sometimes I like play with... Sometimes I'll even... Someone will be like, oh, I'm casting this. And I'll be like, oh, hold on. And I'll like put 2 fingers on an island and I'll like... twist it a little bit.
You sick, twisted man, okay? Play the Celestia way. Just do your best and try, and sometimes things won't turn out.
Nah, I like blue too much. Okay, well, Counterspell is a really good example, but can we think of some other cards that, like, there's a whole suite of counterspells, but... when you play against opponents enough, you actually can almost remember almost every card in their deck sometimes.
Well, specifically the instant speed ones.
And specifically the ones that interact with you, right?
Yeah.
You remember the things that are going to stop you from winning. So, Counterspell, big one.
Yep, know when your opponent's got counterspells for sure.
What are some other spells that you can kind of rattle off the top of your head?
I think you have to say if someone budget is not a factor... and they have 7 mana open, including a blue pit.
That is Cyclonic Rift.
It's got to be Cyclonic Rift. Yeah. Do not commit to the board. Hold fast.
What's the scene? The hold.
Yeah. I'm thinking more like A New Hope. Stay on target.
Some really obscure references. Look, Cyclonic Rift is a really good one. One that appears in our playgroup all the time because of Nick. I'm going to call you out on this one. It's white. So if you see 2 white pips open, and I think it's 3 and a white.
I think it's 2 and a white.
2 and a white.
2 white.
2 white. If you see that amount of mana open, what do you think Nick's about to cast?
Settle the wreckage. It's got to be settle the wreckage.
Yeah, disgusting board wipe type effect.
Yeah.
But it destroys all attacking...
attacking creatures.
Wild.
It's so good. It's a really, really, really good spell.
Yeah.
Like, no shade on Nick for including it.
No.
But yes, if you're playing against Nick and you see 2 white, you know it's likely to be settle the wreckage. And you'll have people who you play with where it's a similar thing will happen.
Yeah.
You know what they're likely to have.
Like, you're holding up Aetherize or something like that.
Yeah, if I play against your Atraxa deck, I am super wary of 1 and a black.
1 and a black.
Or is it even just a black? Tainted Strike?
Oh no, that's a single black.
Single black?
Single black.
That card is disgusting. For reference, it's an instant that says target creature gets +1/+0 and gains infect until end of turn. Target creature does not have to be yours. Doesn't have to be James's. Doesn't have to be anyone's. So if you are just swinging for 9 power at someone they haven't blocked.
That's a gorgeous amount. Yeah.
You can Tainted Strike that creature, give it infect, and infect creatures deal their damage in the form of poison counters instead. And for those who don't know, if you have 10 poison counters in a game of Magic, you lose instantly. So James,
lovely way to kill someone.
Yes, James has killed people with that method. I've seen him do it.
One of my proudest moments was killing someone with a Gulter that was swinging, and it was unblocked, and I gave Gulter a 12/12 trampler infect. effect. I've actually got a
It's
really...
overkill, really.
It really is. Can I tell you, I'm going to go off track. One story about Tainted Strike. When I first played my Atraxa deck, it's the wackiest story, but it shows how fun that playgroup is, because they knew, like, even though it was a brand new deck, it was an effect that was, like, really unique to our group.
Yep.
So, one of my friends, Ben, who's kind of in our playgroup,
we play with Ben a lot.
Play with Ben a lot.
Yep.
I was playing a Vial Smasher deck, which, if you don't know Vial Smasher, when you cast your first spell a turn, Vial Smasher randomly deals damage equal to the mana value of that card to a random chosen opponent.
Yep.
So, the interesting thing about this card is the target and the damage resolves as one. It targets and does the damage in one swift go.
Right, I think I see where you're going here.
Yeah.
You have no opportunity to respond before, like, after the randomly selected player has been chosen and the damage happens. There's no trigger between those things. No one gets priority. So basically, if you're going to respond to the trigger, you're not going to know if it's going to hit you yet before you have to decide to respond. I'm guessing this is going to be relevant in the story.
Super relevant, because I had Tainted Strike in hand.
And you Tainted Strike.
I Tainted Strike
the Vial Smasher.
Well, here's the thing. I had to do like quick math, being like, okay, it's 9 mana value. So if it hits me, I don't die, which is great. Fantastic.
Sure.
I'm going to take the risk. Because everyone else has got at least 1. If it hits Matt or Brad, fantastic, they're going to die. Tainted Strike, wow, wouldn't you know, I'm the one that gets hit with the Vial Smasher trigger.
So you take 9 infect counters.
9 infect counters. Ben passes the turn to Matt, another great friend of mine, who's playing a +1 counter proliferate deck.
Oh no!
It goes to Matt's turn, and he plays Pollen Bright Druid.
I've heard this one before. Landfall on Pollen Bright Druid.
No, it's just it enters the battlefield.
Oh,
you can proliferate. Yeah.
Oh my god! And you just proliferated.
And I just died.
Your infect counter.
I died. That was the
10.
So the first person I ever killed with my Atraxa deck via infect was me.
That's gold.
Pretty horrific.
Can you think of any instant speed responses that you may see in any of my decks if I have them open? Is there anything that you reckon you'd be wary of if I had a particular amount of mana open?
100%. I can't remember the mana value of it, but in your Marchesa deck, is it in your Marchesa deck?
It is in my... is this...
Ink Shield?
Yeah.
That thing scares the hell out of me. Not only is it because it's like a really good... I'm going to save a bunch of life. But Ink Shield, we've talked about this card here.
We have. So it's an instant for 3 black-white.
Yeah.
Prevents all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. For each 1 damage that will be prevented this way, create that many 2/1 Inkling creature tokens with flying.
It is a win con disguised as protection.
Crazy. Like, it's a 5 mana fog, which is way overcosted, except that, if someone swings at you for 20 and you cast your Ink Shield, prevent that 20 damage.
40 power on the board.
Flying as well, because the Inklings have flying.
It is a win con. So, like, if you see, Orzhov and a couple of extra mana, and you know someone's like, go on, swing at me, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
If they're baiting it, for sure.
Don't give them the win, just don't
give
do
it to them. Absolutely.
Alright, I think, let's move on from, like, those cards, but I think there's, like, another category of cards that I think a good playgroup won't use. And I think they're the silver bullet cards. And we've talked about silver bullets before, which are like cards that completely hose another person's deck.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of examples I can rattle off real quick. Way back when, you had your Azor the Lawbringer deck. It was an awesome life gain deck.
I did.
In my Niv Mizzet deck, which was a Spellslinger deck, I ran a card called Stigma Lasher. Does nothing to my deck, but hoses your deck entirely.
So when it does combat damage to a player, that player can't gain life for the rest of the game.
Yeah. Does nothing in my deck, but turned Walt's deck completely off.
It always felt really bad when that would happen, for sure.
And I only included it to stop you.
Yeah, I had a similar thing in that during that sort of arms race period where I included a card called Dryad Militant in my Reese the Redeemed deck, which basically means that instants and sorceries are exiled instead of putting into their graveyard. Specifically because James kept on getting stuff back from his graveyard with Niv Mizzet. I didn't want him to get him back again. And that card's bad. Like, it's not really worth running that card. Even in CDH stacks list, you don't see it because it's just not good enough. But I was just so adamant about trying to hose James's deck. And look, like, I think the attitude here is just generally not the best of going like, I want to deal with that one specific card. And I'm going to stop you doing that. And
if when you're going through your deck building process, if the answer to the question is, why am I including this card in this deck? If the answer is to stop Walt, you shouldn't be putting it in.
No.
Like, rest in peace. It just hoses the graveyard player.
Yeah.
For example.
It's true. It's true. I think, in general, we can move away from these cards and move instead towards, like, if the problem you're having is enchantments or artifacts or something, just play more removal, play more board wipes. Like, those are ways of dealing with things that everyone is always happy to be prepared for. If they're not, then they're babies, I'm sorry to say. So, like, those are totally viable ways. Like, don't feel bad putting, a Nature's Claim in your deck if you're really struggling against an enchantment deck. Like, that's totally reasonable. And you should play that card anyway. It's just good in all matchups.
Yep.
Don't be thinking like, oh, this one card will mean that this player never gets to play the game, which is what, Rest in Peace does to a graveyard player.
Like, it you put it in, like, an arms race. You use that term. Like, I ran Tormod's Crypt in Yuriko, which is objectively terrible, but I only ran it because people started running Spore Frog to stop combat damage from resolving. Gotcha. So then I started running a card to combat that, and this snowball effect, it just becomes really toxic in a play group. So to make our play groups better, we should avoid silver bullet cards.
I totally agree with you. I think better play groups are just building fun and good decks for their own good.
Yeah,
and not being like, I will stop your deck and stop this and this. And
speaking of building decks for its own good or its own fun, I think a good play group and a way to make your play group better is being open to try anything at least once. When I say try anything, at least pilot or play against a new deck.
Sure.
Like, even if it's something pretty controversial, like I said before, like it's stacks or land destruction. My mum actually used to have this, great thing that she always used to say. Specifically, my mum's a lovely cook. She loves cooking for everyone. Yeah. And if she'd cook something really different or exotic or like, something with lots of flavors that I didn't recognize, she'd say, try it at least once. And if you don't like it, we don't have to have it again, but now you don't like it. You actually know that you don't like it.
That's nice. That's a good mentality to have, I think. Not having, like, harboring preemptive resentment towards
I hate
things.
stacks. Have you ever played against it?
Yeah.
No, try it, and you might find that it's a bit of a challenge for you, and you like it.
The thing I would add there is I think it's good to have a really robust rule infinity conversation after these kinds of games. Sure. And for those who aren't aware, we proposed rule infinity in episode 4, I think, or something
way
like
back
that,
when.
a long time ago. But basically, it's the post-game conversation. It's the check-in of like, how did we go? How did people feel? How did we feel the rule 0 conversation went is an important part of it. And so I think this is the opportunity where after you've tried it that one time, you can be like, yeah, fair enough. Really great win. Good game. Like, you played really well. This deck's not for me. I don't think I can play it.
Please don't ever play this against me again. I didn't enjoy it.
Sometimes it'll be a simpler thing of being like, man, that Rest in Peace was great. I'm not playing my Arami deck against that Rest in Peace. It's not going to happen. So next time you pull that deck out, I'm going to swap decks. And that's a reasonable spot to have, I think.
And even like, when you have those conversations, like, I might notice, Walt, you're playing Arami, but Luke's playing that, and it doesn't have a Rest in Peace? And you'll go, oh yeah, it does. Let me switch decks to get one that's better suited for this table.
Yeah.
It helps rule zeros.
It does. It does. It definitely does. I think there's like also a bit of a Commander sort of like
tradition
here that often happens, which is that generally speaking, when someone wins a game, you should switch decks, right?
Yeah.
Almost
100%.
Everyone does this like kind of instinctively. They're like, oh, like I won. So
unless you're
put this deck away, or
maybe if it's a brand new deck and you're really trying to play test it, that's a bit of an exception.
Actually, I have done that before with a brand new deck. I've been like, okay, does anyone? I always ask them. I'm always like, do you mind if I play this one again?
Even if it wins.
Yeah, and certainly, obviously, if you only have the one deck, that's totally fair enough. And if you're at a place where you can, if you are playing at an LGS and not with your playgroup, you could 100% say, I might switch tables. I think these guys over here are playing a slightly higher power. I might hop in with them. That's totally fair enough as well.
I think that's actually a really healthy thing to do.
Yeah.
100%. All right. Considering we have talked about playgroups for a long time, and we're pretending that we're experts on everybody's playgroup.
Yes.
I have proposed a challenge to Walt.
Okay.
A couple of days ago, I sent you a message and asked you...
This is what that was for?
It is. Are you ready?
I'm ready. So for reference, James messaged me out of the blue, which is not rare, but, messaged me out of the blue and said, write 5 multiple choice questions about your play style and your decks.
Oh, they didn't have to be multiple. They could have been anything. But if you've got multiple choice...
Oh, I did multiple choice. I 100% thought you said multiple choice.
I've definitely not got multiple choice in mind, but it's like a single... So if you want, you can just read the question and then I have to guess the right answer. Like you could, for a couple of questions if you want.
Okay. We'll see how we go. But yes, so
basically what I wanted to do for this episode is determine in our playgroup, the Walt and James playgroup, which of us know each other better. So I'm going to answer your questions, and you're going to answer the questions I've prepared about myself.
Okay, I'm pulling them up.
We're gonna have a bit of a showdown of the magic husbands.
Sounds good.
All right, should we rock paper scissors for first?
All right, let's do it.
All right,
rock paper scissors. All right, James going first.
I will go for. I'll answer questions first.
Okay, you'll answer questions
I'll
first.
answer questions.
You're
first.
choosing to play.
I'll play. I'll play first, Tim. I don't know who Tim is.
Timmy. Yeah. First question.
All right, go for it.
Which of Walt's decks has the most likes and views on Moxfield?
Ooh.
The answers here are Reese the Redeemed, Krark and Acroma, Ishtakik and Rebek, or Queen Marchesa.
Damn it. My brain instantly went to Arami, and that's not even on the list.
No, it's not Arami.
I'm going to say purely because it's too niche. Krark and Acroma is like, there's only 2 decks in existence on databases, and one of them's yours.
It's true. On EDH Rec, if you look up that partnership, it's only 2 decks.
I'm going to say it is Ishtakik and Rebek.
Correct.
Nailed it.
Good stuff.
Okay. All right, feeling good. 1 point.
Oh, so we're going all mine first?
All right, that's first.
Question 2. Which archetype is Walt most likely to build for his next commander deck? So this is multiple choice.
Okay.
So we have Spirit Tribal.
You've tried that.
+1 counters, Burn, and Super Friends.
Oh, it's definitely not +1 counters. You've done that too much. You've already tried Spirits, and I loved that deck, and you pulled it apart, you monster.
Kaikar it was, yeah.
You've tried Burn as well, though, with Obosh. I'm going to say Super Friends.
Incorrect. It's actually Spirit Tribal.
Are you having another crack at it?
I'm going to try and have a crack at it again.
Oh, who's the commander?
I'm going to go, there's partners that care about tapping creatures.
Oh,
and so, because Spirits ETB and tap stuff a lot. Yeah, that's the...
I like it.
Question. Thank you.
I like it. Okay, still on 1 point.
All right. Question 3. Which of these infinite combos from James's past did Walt enjoy playing against the least? So my least favourite of your old infinite combos. So we have Zaxara the Exemplary and Freed from the Real.
Yeah.
Niv Mizzet Perun and Curiosity.
Yeah.
Siona, Captain of the Pyleus and Shielded by Faith.
Plus a Teferi's Protection.
And Yeleva, Nephalia's Scourge and Dualcaster Mage. That one's not from the past. That's a
pretty current one. And I think you enjoy that one because it's like so hard for me to actually get off. It's got to be Niv Curiosity, right?
No, I actually had the worst time playing against Siona and Shielded by Faith. Because I felt like the deck didn't do anything else. Like, Niv Mizzet at least, did other stuff until you found Curiosity.
Wow.
That was a bit of a... I threw a curveball there, so I'm sorry.
I think that's fair. I also think that the fact that I built that deck and then stumbled upon a Teferi's Protection and I only ever played the combo when I had Teferi's Protection in hand.
That was a big part of it for me, I think.
Would have been miserable to play against.
It was not a lot of fun. I'm glad that deck is no longer how it is. Question 4. Which of these decks is Walt most likely to disassemble next?
Oh.
We have Sisay Shrines, Wart the Raid Mother Goblin Tribal, Merrin Power Matters, and Azor the Lawbringer.
I don't want any of these to be taken down. Merrin Power Matters.
It's actually Sisay.
Really?
I never pull it out.
Is it because of the stacks effects?
I think it's just, I love the deck. It's well put together, but there's so rarely a time in my playgroup that I get to pull it out and actually play with it.
I'll play with it.
You will.
Definitely before it goes, I want to play it a couple of times.
I think it's I'm not saying it's going to go, but I think it's the most likely is what I'm going
I'm just really thankful it wasn't Azor. I don't ever want you to tear that down.
I knew you wouldn't.
Yeah. So am I still only on 1 point?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Sorry, I played him too hard.
Okay.
Question 5. Which of these cards does not appear in Walt's Around Me list?
Does not appear.
Not appear. So 3 of these cards are in the list. 1 of them is not.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, you can check it out on moxfield.com/ No. It's in the show notes.
It's in the show notes.
Stitcher's Supplier. Grey Merchant of Asphodel,
That's definitely in there.
Reefworm, and Undead Butler.
It's Reefworm.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You were super confident of that one.
I know. You've beaten me with Gary a million times.
Yeah.
Stitch's Supply is like usually your first creature played.
It's often,
like wildly, it's in your open
so
hand.
good.
It's brilliant. And also, you made a TikTok on Undead Butler.
I did. It's a good one too.
It's a very funny one.
Happy with that one. Damn.
So 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. Not bad. Not bad.
Okay,
Right.
my questions, I took a lot more liberties.
Okay.
And so there's not a lot of multiple choice.
All right. That's cool. That's cool.
I feel like I misled you, but I only got 2 out of 5, so maybe this is a good way to me to have a chance of winning this.
Sounds good.
All right, are you ready?
Yes.
Question 1.
Okay.
What is the most expensive card in my Niv Mizzet CDH deck, according to Card Kingdom?
Sugar. I'm like running through. There's definitely a Chrome Mox in there. I know there's not a Mox Diamond. I think Chrome Mox is worth more than Jeweled Lotus. I don't think it's a land. I know you've got some really good lands in there, but I don't think. Yeah, you don't have like any of the. Definitely don't have Volcanic Island yet. I know that for sure.
Yeah, I've only got it proxied in my stupid Niv Mizzet deck.
I'm trying to think. You don't creatures. I think it's Chrome Mox.
Chrome Mox doesn't even come in the top 4.
What? What's the top 4?
The top... Okay, we'll go from 4...
Okay.
4 to number 1.
So all of the ones Walt didn't think of.
A land was on there.
Oh.
Ancient Tomb.
Oh.
Specifically, my foil Ultimate Masters Ancient Tomb comes in at 95 schmackos.
Oh my word.
Yep. Force of Will at $100.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's an obvious miss, yeah.
My Extended Art Jeweled Lotus comes in at a whopping $180.
I didn't realize you had an Extended Art one. That's nuts.
Do you know how much the Extended Art foil is worth?
I'm guessing like 500 or something.
Mate, thousands.
What?
Genuinely.
People are so
wacky.
weird. All right, and number 1?
Number 1 is a 0-drop artifact. It is Mana Crypt.
Oh, wow. Crypt has gotten expensive.
Still at $200.
Wow.
As of literally this morning, by the way. I checked this morning.
Damn, I was way off.
Yeah.
All right. 0 for 1
0
so
for 1.
far. All right.
This one I'm pretty sure you'll get. Which one of James's Dimir decks is in a Dimir coloured deck box?
Oh. So it's either Yuriko or Scarab God. I know that for sure.
You basically got a 50-50 here.
I think it's Yuriko.
It is Yuriko.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay. 1 for 2.
Yeah.
1 for 2. Doing good.
I felt like Yuriko was like the more Dimir-y type.
I think it's also like it's an older deck of yours. It's
Yeah.
like got a, it's, you know, it's blinged. It's,
Yeah, for sure.
Makes sense.
This one might be a bit of a hard question.
Okay.
How many decks does James own that contain the colour white?
Oh, just Commander, right?
Just Commander.
Okay.
I have to own them.
Atraxa is 1. Your precons, you have the Naya Landfall one, that's 2. That contain white. I'm trying to think combos. Blue-white, no. Green-white, no. Definitely not. Red-white? Do you have a Boros deck? No, you got the Naya deck. Do you have a 5-color deck? You don't have a 5-color deck.
I've got the Naya deck. You miscounted.
I said that too.
Oh, so you got 2.
2, yeah. Wow, is it only 2? I feel like I'm definitely missing some here. Oh my word. I reckon I've missed 1. I'm going to say 3. I think you've got 3 decks that include white.
I have 5.
5? What are the other 3 that I missed?
So, Atraxa.
Yeah.
Lands Wrath.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you got. Dinosaurs.
Oh, I totally missed. Oh, 2 Naya decks. Okay,
Yep.
that's why I missed it.
Liesa. Shroud Dust.
Ah.
And recently, I just acquired the First Flight precon, the starter commander decks. I won it at the.
Oh, you did
Games.
too. Yeah,
And I did tell you about it, so you know it. You know it.
Harsh. All right,
That
1
was
for
pretty
3.
hard.
That's tricky. Yeah.
All right. This one is like I'm going to give you 0.25 for each section of this question you
So
get
it's a
right.
4-parter. Okay.
Four answers to give.
Sure.
Which 2 decks did James disassemble recently? And why? So 1 point.
Whoa.
So you get 1/4 point for the deck.
Okay.
And 1/4 point for the.
All right. You
reason.
disassembled your blue-red Brutaclad deck
There's a 1/4 point.
because you wanted to use the cards for the Tornos deck you're building.
Fucking nearly word for word. Well
Okay,
done.
great.
You've got 0.5 of a point.
That's 1. What's the other deck you disassembled recently? Oh, Siona. You disassembled Siona.
Yep, nailed it.
Why did you disassemble? You wanted to use the cards to put them in Liesa.
Look, I'm going to give you a full point for this.
Okay.
Because you are totally right. There are lots of cards in that deck, like Mangara the Diplomat.
Yeah.
There's a Sun Titan in there that I do want to use for Liesa.
Yeah.
The reason I specifically had for Siona was that I just don't play it.
Yeah, you'd never pull it out.
I just straight up don't play it. But yeah, you're 100% right. Siona and Brutaclad. And
oh my god, that means I'm 2 for 4. So the last question is
it come
the
down
decider.
to actually the decider?
If I get this right, I win. Otherwise, we draw.
This is going to come across really scripted now. It's totally not.
Totally scripted. Okay. All right, question 5. Hit me with it.
I feel like you're going to get this right and you're going to win.
Oh no.
All right. Grixis is James's favorite 3-color group, but how do those 3 colors individually rank in order according to James?
Blue is number 1. Red, black.
Incorrect, Walt. It is black-red.
Blue,
I just showed Walt my phone for clarity to show that I believe
you liar.
I believe that black is a
doctored the documents.
Black is a way better color in Commander than red.
Wow.
Way better. Are you kidding me?
Wild. I think I was thinking of 2 color pairings where I was like, you would choose blue-red over blue-black.
I would, 100% as a playstyle choice, those two.
But you'd rather play... you did say individually.
Individually.
Okay. Damn. So you got me.
Did we straight up
just
draw?
Hey, we are equally magic husbandish.
2 out of 5 worth partners.
Lovely.
All right. Well, that was a bit of fun. I enjoyed this episode.
I did.
Through this episode, we've understand why Commander is such a special format, and what makes it special is the playgroups. There's such a unique way that Commander players can interact with the game of Magic. We're now really aware of how our playgroup operates, behaves, and even how some of the members in our playgroup will actually play out a game. And finally, we've thought of some things that will implement some strategies or behaviors to make our playgroups even better and stronger. We also learnt that we know each other equally well.
Lame. Boring.
I really wanted to say
a winner.
Do you want to do a quick fire off the dome final question?
Oh my god.
Should we try it?
The Space Commanders can send us a last question.
Next episode we will determine the winner. One more question.
All right. Well,
deal?
We are done with playgroups.
Shake on it.
All right.
Done.
Let's do it.
All right, shake on it. Moving on.
Space Commanders.
Command received. You didn't salute. You did.
I didn't salute. I also didn't say command.
No, I said command and you just received.
What if you say nothing and I'll say command and I'll salute?
Sure. Well,
command.
All right, there we go.
And I'll doctor it afterwards. Don't tell them. Shh. I'm going to doctor it so that it all works out well and I will definitely remember, and I'm not going to leave any of this audio in and they'll never hear it. And they're so stupid. I hate them all.
Walt does all the editing for our podcasts.
Listeners, do you feel commanded? What do you think of playgroups? What's what cards do you see in your playgroup more often? Who's in your playgroup? Whose decks do you find most interesting to play against? That's what I want to know.
And what strategies do you use when you play against your playgroup is what I want to know.
Join our Discord, that's in the show notes, and chat with us and some other members of our playgroup to find out more about it.
Pretty much all of our playgroup is on our Discord server.
So you can get the goss.
If you want to talk to Daniel or talk to Nick as well, these name drops that we've got, they're in our Discord server.
They're in there, you can talk to them. I will also say one extra thing, I only mentioned this at the end of the episode. Please, if you have the time, leave us a review on whichever platform you listen to this podcast on. So whether it's Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, if you click on our podcast, you can actually go up to, there's like a sort of little button at the top, and you can leave us a review, and we'd really, really appreciate if you could let us know, how you're finding it and whether you like it and all that kind of stuff. It really helps us to grow and reach more fantastic Commander players like all of you.
We've had some really great tweets on our Twitter. We've had some really great messages on our Discord. But if you think what Walt and I are saying is important to the Commander format, spread the good word of the Get Commanded podcasts. We would really love to be doing this so much more. We're doing 1 episode a week, but who knows? Maybe someday it might become 2. Who knows? But if you like our content, please express that you like it, because it'll help us so much.
Enormously. Can't say so enough. Well, shall we leave magic behind?
Please. Playgroups tricky to deal with sometimes.
Yeah, it's true.
Struggles and tribulations. Where are we going this week? Well,
let's planeswalk to the world of music.
That's music according to Walt, ladies and gentlemen.
The only music I listen to is that exact, those exact 4 notes on repeat while I sleep.
This is why I drive us to Commander.
The music. No, my brother actually has been producing music. He's been making remixes of songs. He's been actually now beginning to venture into his own music. For those who are not aware, his name online is Dante Fierro.
That's a superhero name if I ever heard of it.
He was very proud of it. You should have seen him. I've actually got a t-shirt. You might have seen me wear it. I've got a Dante Fierro t-shirt. You ever seen it before?
I have. Weirdly, I'm now remembering that t-shirt.
It's like a rainbow pattern. He did very good with that. Anyway, he's been venturing into the world of making his own music now. He's done a lot of remixes, a lot of like mixes and that kind of thing. And now he's like, okay, I want to make my own stuff. And I just like randomly messaged him and I was like, hey, I'd love to write some lyrics for you. And I was like, he's not going to do it. He won't do his own thing. And he was like, no, 100%. I've had this idea. He gave me like a little start of a lyric and was like, this is kind of what I have so far. I'm stuck. I can't think of anything. Go nuts. Write me a song.
What? So you've written a song?
While I was away, I put all of the screens away and just sat in front of a bit of paper and I have written the lyrics for a song. He's still
old school.
He's still in the process of putting it together, so I can't share it with you yet, but I can let you know that if you go subscribe to Dante Fierro on YouTube, he will be posting it there probably, in the next couple of months. It takes a while to make a song, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, I've sent the lyrics to him. He's happy with them, so it's only a matter of time. Yeah.
Well, look, let Dante Fierro know that if he ever needs a drummer, I'm in.
Hey, I didn't think of that.
Pretty cool.
The collab. Yeah. Maybe I can sing on the track. We can do a Get Commanded.
You play piano as well, don't you?
I do. So we can get Jay, who did the theme song. We got a band on our hands.
Oh my god, guys, the Get Commanded band. We got Jay. We got Walt on vocals and keys. James on drums.
The Space Commanders can
on synth.
I was imagining like vocoder, like auto-tune, like Daft Punk style,
That's I'm envisioning this now. 2023, it's coming.
It's coming. Yeah. If you leave a good review, we will make a band.
If we average 5 stars on Spotify, we'll make a band.
Maybe, yes.
Is this a legally binding contract?
I don't know.
I really hope not. Oh look. Thank you, Commander players. This was a really fun episode to talk about because I'm hoping that maybe one day we can have our playgroup meet your playgroup. We can play in person somewhere. Be really exciting.
Yeah, our playgroups can intermingle.
Combined.
We'll become an army.
Oh, that's a whole nother episode.
All right, let's not go any further.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you all soon.
Catch you, Commander players.
Bye.